by Mortgage Right. I'm your host, John Sirenitas. As always, I'm joined by my partners, Kevin Stone and Adam Kirkchin. And no, I did not lose a bet wearing this stupid hat. It says anyfootballjournal.com. It's a TikTok shop special. Those of you that know me know I like to shop on the TikTok shop. That's why I'm going down with the TikTok. If Congress thinks they're going to take away my TikTok, it ain't going to happen. But gentlemen, how are you this evening?
Doing good.
Doing good. How are you guys?
Good. It's nice to see the snow finally melt and get some warmer temperatures here. And the last week sucked. Just our daily reminder of how much winter and the cold sucks. Give me 90 and humid all day. Beats that crap any day of the week. Before we get started here, I do want to remind you that if you're in the market to purchase your first home, purchase your next home, or refinance, give our good friend Herb Devine a call at 781-254-2846 or shoot him an email at herb@mortgageright.com. With over 27 years of experience, he has the knowledge and the know-how to help you in the process. He and his team are available anytime, including nights and weekends. So again, give him a call at 781-254-2846 or shoot him an email at herb@mortgageright.com. He is ready to help you today with any of your lending needs or any of your real estate needs. And I do want to take this opportunity to congratulate Coach Devine and the Scituate Sailors on winning the Division IV Super Bowl on Thursday, beating rival Duxbury 29-13. Impressive win for Coach Devine and the Sailors. And again, congratulations to them. We'll get into that a little bit with some final thoughts on the 2024 season at the end of the show. Of course, the Patriots were on a bye week this week, the latest bye that they could have. This was the last round of byes. They've got basically what amounts to a quarter of their season left. They've got 4 games: Arizona, at Arizona, at Buffalo, Chargers, Buffalo at home to close out the season. And I'm doing a piece that I'm going to be publishing here at anyfootballjournal.com. There it is right there, anyfootballjournal.com. Stone loved the hat. In fact, he asked me when he could borrow it. So I will be sending it over to his humble abode here shortly so he could walk around wearing it. And he could put on this thing. By the way, what's great about this thing is it comes with an app. You can put anything you want here. I might change it during the course of the show. And I don't know, put something up there that says, I tolerate Kevin Stone or something. Anyway, by the way, Stoney's a good sport. I always bust his chops. He's always a good sport. But in any event, as I was saying, I'm working on a piece, 5 things that I'd like to see the Patriots show improvement on the final quarter of the season. And I kind of want to use that as a starting off point, if you will, for our conversation on the Patriots. What are some areas you want to see this team show some improvement in this last quarter of the season? Obviously, they've had a week off. It's an opportunity for Gerard Mayo and his coaching staff to self-scout. As we go into these final 4 games, what are some areas that you're hoping that they improve in as we wrap up the 2024 season?
I probably want to see them commit fewer penalties, hurt themselves less, and really be good in situational football, like in the red zone and stuff like that. So, just play smarter football and see if you can win some of these games.
Yeah, that first and foremost, the discipline. Defensively, better tackling, stopping the run. All the cliche stuff you hear about, but stuff they haven't been good at. Both sides of the running game, on offense and defense. Adam, you mentioned the penalties. Just the lack of discipline has been brutal. Really, just being more competitive, sort of in general. And don't get blown out. Like these have really all of these games, except maybe Arizona, has a chance to be really, really ugly if they allow it to be, especially that first game against Buffalo. That last game, they might not have anything to play for, so you might get lucky, but just be competitive. Don't get blown out, and really just more continuity from the staff as well. There's obviously a lot of questions, kind of circling around them right now. We've talked a bunch about it. I don't think anybody's going anywhere on this staff. I think they all get at least a year. I'm not sure the Crafts can sort of admit failure this early, but more continuity from the staff and, again, more discipline really for me.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that because I touched on some of the things you guys just mentioned. For me, I want to see an improvement in the red zone offense, disciplined play, less penalties. These are all things you're going to find in my piece here when I post it. Communication in the secondary has been awful all year. The secondary does look like it's one corner short. We've been saying that all season long, but the communication or the lack thereof has been a real problem on the back end defensively all season. Defensive fundamentals, tackle better, better pursuit angles, better run fits. It's been an issue all year. And for me, the fifth thing that I'm going to talk about is Drake May and ball security. Now, a lot to like about Drake May. We all agree that he profiles as a franchise quarterback, but he has got to do a much better job of taking care of the football. It's been his one bugaboo since he took over as the starter. I'd like to see him work on that the rest of the season, do a better job of taking care of the football in the pocket, not throwing interceptions. That will make me feel a lot better about his development and where he is going into next season. And of course, the Patriots, as you mentioned, Kevin, are going to be taking on the Arizona Cardinals on Sunday. A Cardinals team that has all of a sudden lost 3 in a row, is falling out of the division race in the NFC West, and looks like who we thought they might be at the beginning of the season. Based on Arizona's recent play, dare I say this is a winnable game for the Patriots?
I would say, yeah, I think so. You know, we'll see how they do. I mean, every time you say it's going to be a winnable game, they end up like getting smoked. So, but I do think it is winnable. I think, a lot of the games on their schedule have been, more competitive than you would think. Maybe not all, but just some of them. So again, like I feel like they hurt themselves a lot, and they make it difficult upon themselves with their lack of discipline and stuff like that. So, I'd like to see them play a game where they only commit like maybe 3 penalties and give themselves a real shot at this.
Yeah, I thought this and Indianapolis were the only 2 left when we did this however many weeks ago, 4 or 5, whatever it was. If this was at home, I'd say it's almost a lock, just because I feel like Arizona probably isn't that great of an outdoor, cold weather, type of team. But the fact it's on the road gives me pause. It's how can you say any game is really, winnable or not winnable with this team? You really have no idea. So can it be? Sure. Am I expecting them to? No. I feel like they're just they're at a point where they find a way to lose games late. That's just kind of who they are and what they've been all year. So can they? Yes. Do I think they will? No.
One thing that, and I do tend to agree with you. I mean, Arizona is struggling right now. I could see this being a tight, competitive game, but to both of your points, is it winnable? Yes, but by the same token, as you just alluded to, Kevin, this team hasn't given you enough to think that they can go on the road and win a game like this. The inconsistency has obviously been a problem for them all season long, thus their 3-10 record. So, yeah, could they go to the desert this weekend and steal one? Sure, it's probably their best chance to win the game the rest of the way. But they're going to Adam's point, they're going to need to play smarter, cleaner, avoid penalties, not turn the ball over, not give up big plays. And they're going to have to make plays in key situations, something that this team has not been able to do on a consistent basis all season long. So, yes, on paper, given Arizona's struggle and who they are, it's a winnable game. But again, the Patriots are not 3-10 by accident. They're not a very good football team. Arizona is probably looking at this as a get-right game to salvage whatever faint playoff hopes they have. Patriots can certainly derail those playoff plans, but they're going to need to play a lot cleaner. You would hope that they play well coming off a bye. For me, I've always said, if you play poorly coming out of a bye, that's a reflection of the current state of affairs of your team and your coaching. They have got to play well. They have, in essence, had 2 weeks to prepare for this game. There is no excuse. One other thing I did want to talk about that's Patriots related, of course, Gerard Mayo made his weekly appearance this morning on WEEI, and he was basically asked about how he feels about his job security and the situation that he's in. And he didn't get into it. And to his credit, he talked about that his sole focus is on preparing the team and getting ready to play Arizona. But, we kind of sort of have talked about this in recent weeks. I kind of want to circle back to it. And Stone, you alluded to this a little earlier where you've already said that you don't think he's gone after this season. But hypothetically, and again, I don't like to speculate about coach's job status, but it's a worthwhile conversation. Hypothetically, if they do lose out and they finish 3-14, should he be worried about his job security?
Should he? Yes, but I still don't think 1 year is enough for the Crafts. Again, it's when you tell us you hired a guy 5 years ago in your mind, and this was already in writing behind Bill Belichick's back last year, you're only going to give it one season. But as ugly as it is, I can't see them doing that. Now, other people on the staff as scapegoats, sort of, sure. You could see both coordinators go. I think Elliott Wolf is coming back too, but you can make the argument for him. But I just don't see the Crafts admitting that this blew up after one season. I just can't see it.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like they were expected to go 9-8 or 10-7.
Right.
That's
just it. That's just it, right? It wasn't like it was playoffs or bust.
No, I mean I don't think anybody expected them to be very good. They're not very good. If they go 3-14, maybe you consider it, but I think you got to bring them back.
Yeah, I don't think you consider it under any circumstances unless they get blown out in these 4 games and they don't look competitive. Then yeah, you might have a decision to make. But realistically speaking, to Kevin's point, if this has been in the works for years that he was going to be the heir apparent, you're not going to fire the guy after 1 year. You're going to give him at least another year, probably 2 more. I mean, if they show meaningful progress next year and he shows growth as a head coach, he probably gets another couple years anyway to see if he's the guy that can get him back to playoff contention. But nonetheless, again, I would be shocked if they made a move after this season. I don't see it. He was identified as the heir apparent. He's the guy they wanted. They got to see this through. And look, we've talked about this before. They had plenty of other options, right? They could have gone Mike Vrabel. They could have entered the coaching market and interviewed the Ben Johnsons and the Bobby Slowicks of the world. They could have brought in Jim Harbaugh if they wanted to for an interview. The bottom line is they didn't even go through a process. He was the hand-picked successor. There's no way on earth they only give him 1 year. I asked the question, but honestly, fellas, I got to be honest with you. I think it's a fruitless conversation. It's been had a lot in this market this season, and I don't understand it because, again, the Crafts would really have to be willing to eat the crap sandwich to move on from Mayo after one season. And from a publicity PR standpoint, I don't see them willing to do that. I don't see Robert Kraft, who talked about this at his intro press conference about having a feeling, a vibe that Mayo was the right guy to lead this franchise moving forward. All of a sudden now that gut instinct that he talked about was wrong when he sat there and told us that his gut instinct is a big reason for his success. No chance. I don't see it. There's no way on earth that they make that move. You are watching / listening to the New England Football Show presented by Mortgage Right. I'm your host, John Serenitas. As always, I'm joined by Kevin Stone and Adam Kirchen. And tonight we're also joined by my scrolling hat, courtesy of the TikTok shop. I got a great deal on this thing, by the way. I think it was like $11-12, but it's saying anyfootballjournal.com. If you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe. Go on there and subscribe. For $2.99 a month, you get some of the best football coverage in New England. Patriots, high school, college, you name it. We're all football all the time. It's year-round here. There is no off-season. Before we continue the conversation here, I do want to remind you that if you're in the market to sell your current home, purchase your next home, purchase your first home, or refinance, give our good buddy Herb Devine a call, 781-254-2846. You can also shoot him an email at herb@mortgageright.com. He and his team are available anytime, including nights and weekends. And Herb Devine, as we know, is, first of all, one of the best people you'll meet out there. And I'm not saying that because he sponsors the show. If you know Herb, if you've met Herb, you know what I'm talking about. We texted a little bit this week, and I congratulated him on their win. Of course, I help out at King Philip. He sent his thoughts over to me in regards to our outcome, but he is a class act. And I tell you, I've been in the real estate business going on 10 years now. You're swimming among sharks in that business, folks. You need good people in your corner if you're going to make a transaction work. This is why I can't say it enough. Herb is a gentleman. He is smart. He is a people person. He knows how to get deals done. He knows how to utilize and leverage relationships to help people in the process. You need someone like that in your corner. So either give him a call or shoot him an email. The URI football season came to an end on Saturday in rather heartbreaking fashion. A close 17-14 loss. Did I get that score right? Or was it 20-17?
17-10.
17-10. All right, it was in the neighborhood. I thought I'd written it down in my notes, but I do apologize. 17-10 loss to Mercer. You know, Kevin, you said this on Saturday, and I think it's so true. It's a game they could have won. And in some ways, when you look at how the game played out, you can almost make the argument that they should have won this game. Nonetheless, 17-10 loss at Mercer ends a historic season for the Rams. They finished 11-3. And look, I know that Rams fans and Coach Fleming, the staff, the players don't necessarily want to hear this, but what a season. They had one hell of a season. They have nothing to hang their heads about. A historic season for the URI football program. It was a fun ride.
They should have won that game. But there's no sort of discussion about it. They had 2 touchdowns taken off the board from Sean Harris, punt return touchdown, and I think a 34-yard receiving touchdown. They should have been up 14-0 at the half. Mercer's first 8 drives all ended in punts, and they had 41 yards, I believe, total of offense. That defense played an incredible game. The offense just couldn't do enough. Malik Grant got hurt in the third quarter, rolled his ankle getting tackled. That made that comeback that much harder. But they had opportunities. One in particular, Hunter Helms, slid on a third down. I believe it was 3rd and 4 late in the game. It might have been early in the fourth quarter. And they set up a 4th and 2 at the Mercer 33. He puts his head down there and gets a touchdown. They might take the lead for good. So either way, they had a lead 10-7 going into the fourth quarter. They should have won that game. Gave up 259 yards total of offense. Again, the defense could not have played any better. So like you said, credit to them for a hell of a season, but that one's going to sting for a while. The first touchdown I got called back. I've never seen a call like that. It was an illegal fair catch where he might have put his hands up, but it looked like he was sort of more balancing himself as he was getting under the ball. Can't make that call in a playoff game. Ridiculous. So you feel for URI there, but ultimately now you hope that this sort of springboards them and there isn't another 39-year playoff drought, that this now becomes the norm. But they have a lot to replace too. So, and Fleming alluded to this after the game. He said, as a coach, you always try to put off the rest of the BS, the recruiting, the portal, the NIL stuff as long as possible because you just want to play. You just want to play and coach. So he knows what's ahead. He knows that they have sort of a rebuild coming up this offseason, but can't give them enough credit for the fight they had. Just couldn't do enough offensively late in that game.
Yeah, I think if you had said before the game that the Rams would hold Mercer to 259 total yards, they would have taken that. And it's tough. I mean, they ran the ball well all season, and then you lose Grant like that. That's a tough one. But I still think they probably should have won, like Kev said. But again, this is maybe this is not going to be such a rarity going forward. Maybe we'll see URI in games like these more and more. They recruit really well. They have good players coming up in the system, and I think they can get back here. So it was a great season. They had a great year, and let's hope that this isn't so rare in the coming years.
Yeah, and I think you bring up a great point, Adam, about the way they recruit. But I think one of the reasons that gives me hope for them, and I'm looking forward to seeing them in the spring, but one of the things that gives me hope for them is that Jim Fleming and his staff have done a tremendous job since he's taken over in 2014. They've done a terrific job since the portal, they've done a terrific job in recruiting since he's taken over. But since the portal has become more of a feature of that process the last 4 or 5 years, he and his staff have done a tremendous job dipping into the portal and bringing in experienced talent that could step in and play and make an impact. That they have made a living in the portal. And I know that early on for Coach Fleming, he had some trepidation in terms of navigating the portal and using it, but they have done a masterful job of using it. I have no doubt that between what they have coming back and the portal, they'll be able to fortify the roster and stay in contention in the CAA and beyond. But again, you can't say it enough. I know so many good people down there that are around that program, but you can't say it enough about this season and how important it is to this program, fellas. Because, look, when you think of URI athletics, the perception is it's a basketball school. And I think that the football program really did a good job this year of changing that narrative a little bit and making it more than just about it being a basketball school, that it can be a school that's good in football. And let's not forget, this is a program that has won Yankee Conference championships back in the day. They do have a proud football tradition. So even though the perception was nationally, well, it's a basketball school, they did a lot to dispel that notion. It can be a football and basketball school as well. And look, make no mistake about it. We know how important football is to any athletic department. What they did this year, putting the football program back on the map, I think is huge. I think it bodes well for the future. It's going to help them in recruiting both in Rhode Island, in New England, and nationally. And this isn't a program that's going anywhere anytime soon. Like I said, I think that they're going to be a player in the CAA and an at-large playoff contender for years to come. Because, again, Fleming and the staff do a great job of restocking the roster, both in terms of organic young talent and the portal. And as long as they keep doing that, this program should be in pretty good shape. Congratulations to Coach Flem, to the rest of the staff, the coordinators, Coach Murphy, Coach Loretti, everybody on the staff. It's a great group of guys, and the players, you can't say enough about them. A terrific, terrific season. Now, yesterday we also found out where Boston College and UConn are going to be playing for bowl games. We kind of sort of predicted this here at New England Football Journal. We thought that BC could end up in the Pinstripe Bowl, and that's exactly where they're going to end up. They're going to take on the Nebraska Cornhuskers on Saturday, December 28th. That is a noon kickoff. We will be there covering that. UConn will be taking on North Carolina in the Fenway Bowl, the Wasabi Fenway Bowl. They're going to be taking on North Carolina in the Fenway Bowl. That game will also be on Saturday, December 28th. That is an 11 a.m. kickoff. Just some thoughts. Are you pleased with where these two programs ended up bowl-wise? Is this what we expected? Did you want something more? What are your thoughts? Stone, I'm going to start with you.
So it's funny, as much crap as I gave the Fenway Bowl last year, I think it's a good spot for UConn. It's basically a home game for them, right? So, but more so just, look, 2 bowl games in 3 years for that program is huge. You know, they could have played it on Mars. It wouldn't have mattered. Any bowl game for them, especially when in recruiting, is massive. So I think it is a good spot for them. And again, you're going to get a big crowd there of UConn fans. I also think North Carolina fans travel well enough. That'll be a pretty good day. And obviously you have the sidebar with, Drake May's former team coming to town again as well. And then BC, I think it's phenomenal. Bill O'Brien talked about it today. Being on the Northeast, you have a chance for that big fan base, which has a big alumni base in New York as well, to get out to that game. And not only do you get to play a marquee, big name program and a coach with Nebraska and Matt Rule, you're on ABC that day. You have a prime time, noontime start to that big day of bowl games. So that's a huge spot for the program. And again, we talk about this a lot. Those bowl games, the 15 practices are the biggest thing. But ultimately, the just in general, having those practices, it allows younger kids to be able to have more experience these next few weeks and get more time under their belt and learn the program a little bit more. So it's a win-win for both of those programs, I think. But BC in particular, with a real chance to get to 8 wins for the first time since 2009 in an iconic venue, both programs really couldn't have done much better.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like this is a great one for BC. They get to go up against a real traditional power in Nebraska. I mean, traditional, doing a lot of work there, but but I feel like Nebraska probably should bring a ton of fans. Like they're usually a good traveling fan base, and so I think it'd be great for BC. I mean, it would be a great one to get that 8th win against. I don't think it's a slam dunk either. I think Nebraska's good enough to beat them. I think UConn is a good spot for them. Again, like UNC coming back up, the Drake Mays school and everything like that. So, yeah, I think these are both pretty good games. You're not going to be real picky when you had the season these teams had. These aren't like 11-win seasons. You're gonna like what you get no matter what. So, I think they're both really good games for them.
Yeah, and by the way, I'm paying homage to Don Brown here. I did change what it says here. Whenever Don would see Kevin, he would say, "Stony baby." So that's what it says. It says "Stony baby." So
There you go.
there you go. Stone looks thrilled by that. Stony baby. All right. So look, for me, I think the Pinstripe Bowl is a win-win for Boston College because it's a bowl game that it doesn't have the cachet it used to have. If you guys remember, I think the last time they played in it was 2017.
Yeah.
It was the new era Pinstripe Bowl. It was typically played at 3:30 in the afternoon. It had kind of developed a reputation as being one of the more important middle tier bowls, if you will. It's kind of lost a little bit of its luster. Bad Boy Mowers, they're the ones that are sponsoring it now. But I still think it's a significant bowl game, and I think it's a great opportunity for Boston College to play a quality opponent in a Northeast-centric bowl game where they can get BC fans there. I would suspect that they'll sell a lot of tickets for it. Obviously, having Bill O'Brien, Matt Rule, two former NFL head coaches, good coaching matchup. I think it's a terrific landing spot. I honestly did not think that they would take them with 7 wins. I've said this to you guys before, where I thought it was going to probably take about 8 wins for them to end up in a bowl like that. So the fact that they're taking them at 7-5, I think says a couple of things. I think once they really want this to be a regional bowl game, but 2, it's the power of Bill O'Brien, right? Like he brings credibility and cachet to the program. Not that Halfley didn't. That's not what I'm trying to say. All I'm simply saying is I think he's more of a national name. And I think, like I said, that coaching matchup probably appealed to the bowl, and they figured, you know what? We have ACC Big Ten tie-ins. Let's bring these two programs. I think it's going to be a hell of a game. It should be a terrific matchup. As far as the Fenway Bowl goes, if you're a UConn fan, it's great because it's a game now. They should do well as well. They should sell a bunch of tickets. Of course, last year, if you remember, BC played in it. They won it. They beat SMU in a rainstorm. It was a crappy day. This will be on a Saturday. I think you should get a better turnout than you did last year, as long as the weather is cooperating and it's not frigid or it's not snowing or raining. You should have a pretty good turnout. UConn should sell a bunch of tickets. I think, Kevin, you mentioned this. North Carolina travels well. They should sell a bunch of tickets. They'd be coming back up here. Of course, North Carolina played up here a few weeks ago. So I think it's a great opportunity for UConn against a really good opponent. Could be Bill Belichick's future employer. I think it's a really good opportunity for UConn to make a statement and win 9 games, which I think for this program would be monumental if you can win 9 games 3 years in. It would be unbelievable growth by Jim Mora and this staff. By the way, it'd be remiss if I didn't ask, what do you guys make of the Belichick North Carolina rumors? Do you buy it, not buy it?
I think it would be cool if it came true, but I mean, it seems odd. Like it doesn't seem like that's good enough for him. I think he would go somewhere better than that if he did go somewhere, but I have a hard time believing that happens, but maybe I'm wrong.
I didn't at first, but I absolutely buy it now. He talked about it today. Like if it wasn't going to happen, or if it was a pipe dream, I don't think he wouldn't even addressed it today. But it's funny. I heard Bert Breer talking the other night after we covered the Super Bowls. I want to say Friday, either Thursday or Friday. And he said, look, it may seem weird, on the outside looking in, but with the way college football is structured now, you're basically dealing with free agency. So yes, it'd be recruiting, but it also have, you're also dealing with kids that are looking to be professionals. So I don't think it's that weird to have him recruiting or pitching kids, in their living room. And who's to say he's even gonna, really travel and recruit? Look at Deion Sanders. I think he can kind of take that same model. So again, on the surface, would it seem weird to see him at a college? Yeah, of course. I think we all thought he was going to eventually end up back in the NFL. But if no one's knocking on his door, that's a guy who still loves coaching and loves teaching. John, you can speak this better than anybody. If you're a football coach, you just want to coach. That's why Jeff Hafley left BC. He wanted to coach football. So if this is his only option and his only way to get back in the game, yeah, why not? And I'm sure he's going to have, whatever the hell he wants there. Ultimately, you've already heard, he's trying to negotiate a spot for his kid Steven to maybe take over, whatever that might be. It's not that far fetched, I don't think, and it's really not that outlandish. Is it beneath him? Maybe, but it's where he is right now. And if it's his only spot, it's his only spot.
Well, I don't. For me, I think what's interesting is I wrote a short piece about it when the story broke last week. That I don't buy it. I don't believe it. I don't think he's going to end up there. If he does, I'll be shocked. If he also does, I think it's going to tell you that the level of interest in the NFL is just not there for him. And not for him per se, from his perspective, but from the league. For him to take a job like this, fellas, there's no doubt in my mind, if he takes a job like this, it's because he's read the tea leaves and he recognizes that owners aren't going to be coming after me and my services to turn their fortunes around. Or he's not going to have the type of power that he wants within an organization. Now, he still wants to coach. He loves to coach, but this makes no sense at any level to me. The only way I can justify this is if he takes this job to eventually set up his kid to be the heir apparent and to take over for him. Other than that, you're not going to win a natty there. You could make the college football playoff, but if he thinks he's going to roll in there and he's going to do what Deion Sanders does in Colorado and just basically lure talent in based on reputation and NIL money, he's kidding himself. You still have to recruit. I hope that if he's seriously considering this, that he and his good buddy Nick Saban have had a real conversation about this. Because if they have not, then if he were to ever make this move, if the job is offered and he took it, I think he'd be making a monumental mistake. I still think there's a place for him in the NFL. I still think when the dust settles, there'll be that one organization, that one owner that's going to say he's Bill effing Belichick. If there's anybody that could possibly fix this or turn it around, it's him. So for me, it comes down to this. If he takes it, it's because he's reading the tea leaves and he realizes he's not going to get a job in the NFL this offseason. Or if he takes it, he just wants to set up his kid down the road and he just wants to coach and get back into the game. I don't get it. He doesn't have the years behind him to play around with this stuff. He needs to take a job now. He can't wait. He's pushing his mid-70s. To me, it makes no sense. But, I mean, again, I'm not in his shoes, but I'd be shocked if this happened. Now, as you can see here with the scrolling hat, I did put in Joe Harasimiak to UMass. Of course, that was the biggest coaching story of the week last week around these parts. UMass hiring Joe Harasimiak, who's a defensive coordinator at Rutgers. Harasimiak has local ties. He played at Springfield. He has coached at UMass. He's coached at the University of Maine as the head football coach. Did a tremendous job there. The Black Bears went on a playoff run in 2018. He also has FBS coordinating experience, both at Minnesota and Rutgers. Obviously, he was introduced at a press conference on Friday. We haven't had a chance to talk about it. I want to take a few minutes here and really dive into this. I want your thoughts to start, and then I want to kind of go into some other directions with the conversation.
I think, I don't think there was anybody that's going to turn this thing around in 1 year. I think Harasimiak is a good coach, but it's going to take time, I think, unless you get really successful in the portal. I'm curious to see what his philosophy is of portal versus just regular recruiting. Um, Don Brown was very pro portal his last couple of years at UMass. But again, I just think all I want is for some patience, because I don't think you can turn this around right away. I don't think it's that kind of job. I think it's going to take time, and I hope they give Simiak some patience with that and give him a chance to really dig in and do this the right way. Now, it looks like he's going to have a lot of money for assistants. That's great. And if that means there's going to be a sort of a greater emphasis from the administration, then that's also a good thing. But I just don't want to come in saying, well, they'll go 8-4 next year, or something like that. Like this is going to take some time, and I hope they exercise some patience with him. I think he's a good coach. I just would like to see, I'd love to see them really get behind him and show patience, because I just don't think this is an easy overnight job.
Yeah, first of all, credit to Shane Montgomery. That team could have easily folded. They played their asses off the last 2 weeks of the season, so he deserves credit for that, for getting those guys to buy into whatever message he was saying. Look, at this point, I said this to both of you when we were at Gillette this week. No matter what he said at that press conference, it doesn't matter unless you win now. He literally could have said absolutely anything, and none of it matters. For me, this is more about the people above him than whoever was going to take the job or be hired. This is about the athletic department now, and them figuring out how to actually get behind the football program, because they haven't figured it out in however many years since they moved to FBS. And again, they continued to hurt themselves over the last 2 or 3 weeks with just dumb thing after dumb thing that we needed to release a statement and everything. So I'm more concerned about the people above him, giving him everything that he needs. And Adam, you mentioned the allotment that it will have for assistants. That's huge. But is it really there? You know what I mean? Like, is he actually going to be allowed to spend what he wants to spend, or spend what he thinks he has coming in for those type of assistants? So for me, yeah, in name, it seems like a really good hire. Good experience. He knows the Northeast. Feels like he can be a good recruiter up here. But again, you're fighting an uphill battle recruiting kids to UMass. It is what it is. So for me, this is less about who they hired and more about the people above him sort of making a commitment or recommitment to the football program, because it hasn't been there.
Well, I think, look, I love the hire. He was on my list of top 15 candidates, as he was on most people's potential candidates list after the program parted ways with Coach Brown. I love the hire. They could have hired him a few years ago. They didn't. I think it says a lot about Ryan Bamford in the sense that he came back and realized, young coach, he's 38 years old. This is the kind of guy that can lead our program moving forward. I think that they recognized the error of their ways, and I think they brought him back. All of that being said, it's nice that he obviously he's getting a bump in pay. I believe he's going to be paid $1.3 to $1.4 million per year. He's going to have the most money in the MAC in terms of an assistant pool at over, I want to say it was well over $2 million or over $2 million in terms of the money that he had at his disposal to accumulate a staff. The other thing is they're going to have a couple $1 million in NIL money to play with as well the next couple of years. Look, for me, all that stuff is great. But, Adam, you said this, and I think it's so true. They got to be patient. They ran out of patience pretty quick with Brown. They ran out of patience pretty quick with Bell. They can't run out of patience with this guy. They've got to stay patient. They've got to be willing to commit to him at least 4 years. Now, if he wins within his first 2 years, yes, there's a good chance he goes. But if he's not winning right away, but the program is more competitive, and let's say he's winning 3 or 4 games, then see it through. Give him 4 to 5 years to get this program to a place where it can be competitive. Making the financial commitment is great, but the facilities still need a lot of work. You still need to make an investment in that area as well. And my guess is a guy like him doesn't take this job if there isn't some kind of a guarantee there that there will be upgrades in the facilities coming down the road. So while yes, you're making a stronger commitment to him than you did Brown by paying him more money, by giving him a larger assistant pool, by investing in NIL, all of that stuff is great. And you can improve the facilities as well. But you've got to give him the time he's going to need to turn this around. This has been arguably, if not the worst job in FBS college football the last few years, one of the 5 worst. So if you want to do it right with a young, hungry, motivated coach who's got a good resume, who can use that experience to restock the roster both organically with young players and the portal, you got to give him the time. If the expectation is next year that he has to win 4 or 5 games, then forget it. Then you know what? It's not going to happen. Realistically speaking, it's probably not going to happen. A realistic goal next year, even in the MAC, should be maybe 3 or 4 wins. That should be considered a good year to start and then show progress from there. Maybe you're in bowl contention in year 2. I would be shocked based on the current state of affairs with that roster if they were in bowl contention in 2025. Nonetheless, I think he's a terrific hire. Now, obviously, his most important hire is going to be that offensive coordinator. He's got to get someone in here who's innovative, who's smart. If I were him, I would really look to go with someone on the younger side, who's a young up-and-coming coordinator who runs a system that can generate offense, is exciting. The players want to play in the system. It's up-tempo. It can push the pace. That's what I would do if I were him. I would not, just because you're playing in the Northeast, don't buy into the myth that you have to, find someone that's going to play in 2 and 3 back and play power football. You can have an element of that in your offense, but in this day and age, especially with the portal, you want to attract guys. You want to get guys that want to come here, especially portal guys. They're going to want to come here, play, put up numbers, and help their draft stock. I hope he hires a young offensive coordinator that can come in and really add some juice to this offense. And look, Shane Montgomery, I thought, did a good job at times last season, but let's be honest, they have not been great offensively since Mark Whipple did his second tour of duty here. So they need to be much better. I think that hire is going to be crucial. I think the other thing that's going to be important is, what do you do with the offensive line coach? I wouldn't be opposed to him retaining Alex Miller. I don't know if he will or he won't. There's some guys on that staff that I think are good coaches that were on Brown's staff that are worth retaining. But again, Harris CIAC is his own contacts, his own people. So he's certainly going to try to identify people that he thinks can fit his philosophy and what he wants to do with the program. Again, I think it's a great hire. On paper, it's a really good hire. If I'm a UMass fan, I'm excited, but they've got to give him time. It can't be, well, this is the expectation in year 1 that we're going to be in bowl contention. I know UMass fans are passionate. I know they want to win, but they got to be realistic. It didn't work with Don Brown. It could work with this guy if he's given the right amount of time. All right, we got one final segment here to go. We're going to switch gears here now. Talk some high school football, of course. Massachusetts wrapped up the high school season this past Friday with the Divisions 8. Excuse me, with the Division 8, Division 5, and Division 3 Super Bowls. Connecticut played their semifinal games yesterday, and what a day it was down there. Some great games. The state title games are set for Friday and Saturday night. They'll be played Friday night. One game will be played at Rensselaer Field, and the other one will be played at a root field on the campus of Central Connecticut State University. Both of those games will be at 6:30. Then you've got 4 games on Saturday. We're going to have full coverage of all 6 of those state title games. But, gentlemen, I want to kind of put a bow on what was, we talked about this on Friday night, but just some final thoughts on what was a fun week up at Gillette with the MIAA Super Bowls.
Yeah, I thought it was really good. I mean, some of the games that stuck out to me were Shawsheen beating Foxborough, a tremendous career for Sid Tildesley from Shawsheen. And all he was missing from his resume was a state title, and he got it. It was a real rock fight of a game, kind of, but it was good to see him, go out on top. I was really impressed with North Attleboro in Division 3. Ryan Bannon had a tremendous career at North Attleboro, and He finished it off with another great game, playing great defense at linebacker, running the football on offense. Um, Zavarian beating Needham was a pretty good game too. I thought, Zavarian with 4 losses goes in and wins that game. It tells you how, it just tells you what playing a great schedule will do for you, though. And Vince Busa, the running back at Zavarian, had another great game. A kid who's been injured the whole time. That's another thing we saw a lot of injuries and guys fighting through them. Bannon had an injury too at North Attleboro. So there were some great games, and obviously Catholic Memorial beating KP. Catholic Memorial, another great season. They just did it all, and they're a great team, and so it was a fun week, couple of games there.
Yeah, solid week of games. We've already said our piece about the whole 3-day thing, but worked out pretty well. Hudson was a really kind of a nice story for me to see the Ottaways go out the way they did, especially Jake to finish off his career with his dad obviously coaching too. That was a cool story. That game sucked to see Justin Marks go down for Fairhaven. Obviously, it would have been maybe a different story, but good for Hudson. You mentioned Zavarian and Needham. Just more credit to Doug Kopsko and the job that team did as a public school to knock off Central Catholic, to knock off Prep, and then only lose to Zavarian by 7 with the ball late and a chance to go down and tie the game. Just all the credit in the world to them and to what they did, not just this season, but last year too, sort of building towards this. And then that the Shawsheen game, I don't know if I've ever covered anything like it. Foxborough had 58 total yards of offense. Just Adam, you said it perfectly, an absolute rock fight. And that game came down to really the last 2 possessions before a late interception and a Tilsley touchdown to kind of ice it. But another really good week at Gillette, and congratulations to all 8 teams that won Super Bowls. And I know a lot of them are already looking towards 2025. I know we are.
I'd be remiss if I didn't bring this up because it's obviously tomorrow night, Adam, me, you, and Tyler will be doing our top 25 reveal show. But I'd be remiss if I didn't mention this because I feel like it's been coming up a lot in recent years. On Saturday, you did an interview with Catholic Memorial coach John DiBiazzo. He was pretty defiant in that interview. Showed a peppery side for sure in regards to some of the questions about them winning yet another state title, the 16th state title of his illustrious career. Of course, beating KP on Thursday night, 39-21. But I thought it was interesting because I've been asked a lot about this past weekend. And of course, it seems to be, at least in recent years, it seemed to come up a lot, which is, should the Catholic Conference be in the MIAA? Should the Catholic schools be playing in the MIAA? Do they have an inherent advantage? You talked to DiBiazzo. What was the sense you got from him as he continues to hear a lot of this noise circulating around his program?
Well, he just went back to his days at Everett and how they beat Catholic Conference schools. They lost to Catholic Conference schools. And, that whole dynamic, he talked about how when he was at Everett, he never asked for separate playoffs or anything like that. And he said as a Division II school that they've got 440 boys in the school at CM, and how, that actually puts them in Division 4 if they were to go purely by numbers. But he likes playing in Division 2, and he does not think there should be separate playoffs. And he's really the one thing that I found interesting, he used it with basketball when he was in the GBL and Cambridge came to the GBL, and they sort of raised the level of play of everybody else. And I think that there is something to that of, raising the level of play with one great team, bringing it up like that. But no, he hears his critics, I wouldn't say defiant is the word. It's something like that, though. But I think he doesn't see anything wrong with CM playing in Division 2, and he doesn't see anything wrong with the publics playing the Catholics. And those are the 2 things where you hear most of the discussion right now with those teams.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think there's no clear solution to this, right? I think that's the conundrum here. Obviously, the MIA is not going to take the Catholic schools out of the MIA. They're not going to separate them. And while what happens here in Massachusetts is actually kind of out of the norm, Catholic schools in most other parts of the country actually don't play the public schools. That's kind of a Northeast New England thing. Um, I do think that it's going to be a topic of conversation every year. What's interesting is that there was some number crunching done this weekend. Since they've been in Division II in the playoffs, they're 14-1, and their average margin of victory is 28 points. So I think people are going to point to that and say, and you can really make this case about any Catholic school, not just CM, but I think people are going to point to that and say, should they be playing public schools during the regular season or playoffs? I mean, again, it's something that comes up this time of year. But the reality is, you look at Needham. Needham beat Central Catholic. They beat St. John's Prep to get to a Super Bowl. So that kind of squashes the argument that the Catholics shouldn't be playing the publics. A couple of years ago, KP beat Xaverian. They beat Bishop Fee and BC High all in the same season. So, I mean, I think, again, I think obviously he's assembled a talented roster there. He can do it. I think that is an inherent advantage that Catholic schools have. We have to be honest about it, right? Like, if we're going to have this conversation, I'm all for Catholic schools staying in the MIA, but we also have to look at this realistically, that they do have inherent advantages in that they could literally go pick from multiple communities and bring players in. Public schools have to play with who's walking the hallways. They can't do that unless there's school choice and kids opt to go play there and not in their hometown, which is very, very, very rare. So it's certainly a conversation that will keep coming up. I think it unfairly does diminish or take away from their kids and what they've done. But the reality is, to say that it raises the level of competition and all this other stuff, that's hokey bullshit. The reality is, if they can go out and basically, for lack of a better term, recruit, they're always going to have the upper hand. It's not, and that's all Catholic schools, not just CM. They're always going to have the upper hand. So to say that it raises the level of your league is silly, in my opinion, because it's not the same. But nonetheless, it's been a great run by them. They've won 3 out of 4, and it appears by all accounts that they're going to be staying in Division II. So I'm sure next year, if they play KP again or they play someone else, who knows? It'll probably be a topic of conversation again. But nonetheless, it is what it is. Connecticut CIAC playoffs yesterday. Of course, you had the semifinal round. West Haven beating Fairfield Prep 42-7. I didn't see that coming. I mean, Westy basically skated by on Tuesday night, winning 6-0 against Glastonbury. And Fairfield Prep was the number 1 seed in Class LL. And they were playing really well. A senior-laden team, Nick Conlon and company, took care of business in a big way on the road, knocking off Fairfield Prep. And Greenwich avenges a Thanksgiving Day loss against Staples to knock off the defending Class LL champs 14-0. The Golden Greek, Peter Vamvoulakis, and the Cardinals pick up a huge win. They are back in the title game. They are going to take on West Haven on Saturday at 6:30. That game will be at Central Connecticut State University. In Class L, I mean, it's becoming a death and taxes routine now. Darien outlasts Notre Dame West Haven 35-21 in a great game. See, and public schools can beat the Catholics in some states. And then New Canaan beat Newtown 35-20. So for the second year in a row, we're going to get Darien, New Canaan in the state title game. In Class L, that game will be played on Saturday at 3 p.m. at a roof field on the campus of Central Connecticut State University. Class MM, Windsor, who's the number 1 team in Connecticut, beat Newington 50-0. 50-0. Massac beat Bunnell, avenging a loss earlier this season, 41-13. So in the Class MM final, you're going to get Windsor and Massac. That game will take place on Friday at 6:30 p.m. at a roof field on the campus of Central Connecticut State University. Class M. Hold on one second here. as I go through the games. Class M. This one is an upset. Catholic school picking up a win in Connecticut. St. Joe's beating Daniel Hand 17-10. They're going to take on Brookfield, who beat Berlin 28-0. That game will be on Saturday at the Rent. 1:30 kickoff between St. Joe's and Brookfield. And coming down the stretch here, Class SS, Killingly, who's been a wagon all year long, wins big again, 42-7 over Waterford. Sheehan beat Wyndham 49-13. So on Friday night, you're going to get Killingly Sheehan at the Rent. That's a 6:30 kickoff. And finally, in Class S, this is, I mean, Adam, I could have told you at the beginning of the year, who do you think would play in Class S for a state title? And I think you would have got this one of the best rivalries in New England. Bloomfield outlasting WCA 28-23. They're going to take on Ansonia, who won on a last-second Hail Mary, if you will, over Woodland 30-23. So Bloomfield, Ansonia, they will be playing on Saturday morning at 10:30 at the Rent for the Class S state title in Connecticut. It's the way it should be. These have been the two small school powerhouse programs in Connecticut for a while, and they get to battle it out once again. Should be great games. Our Craig Boland, Matt Spalding, and Rob Gulo are going to be there. They're going to each cover two games between Friday night and Saturday. Craig, Rob, and I will be doing a CIAC Connecticut State Championship preview show on Wednesday night. So follow along for some of the best Connecticut high school football coverage in the area. And, of course, there's plenty of good outlets down there that do a great job. So it's an honor of ours to have a seat at the table there and cover these great games as the high school football season wraps up in Massachusetts. All right, gentlemen, final thoughts here before we wrap it up.
It was just a great season of high school football here. Some amazing teams with a lot of talent. And, it's funny how quickly these seasons go by, right? I mean, they just fly. And so it was fun to be at Gillette. I thought they did a good job there, and it was certainly a fun venue.
Yeah, just to piggyback off of that a little bit, thank you to our writers, our videographers, photographers, and then all the ADs, the parents, the players, everybody that threw support behind us and gave us story ideas, whatever it might be. We always say it, but we take pride in doing game stories still. We feel like we're as good as anybody when it comes to high school coverage. So thank you to everyone that allowed us to cover as many games as we did this year. And we still have BC, UConn, and obviously the Connecticut playoffs as well. And then before we know it, it'll be spring ball and draft time. So, but thank you in all sincerity to everyone that helped us out again this year in our fourth season.
Yeah, I want to thank our writers in particular. I mean, to be out there on a week-to-week basis, covering high school games, college games, to brave the elements, to bring you some of the best game story coverage in New England. As Kevin said, we do place a premium on that. We think it's important. We know there are other ways to cover programs as well, but we still think being at the games is a big part of it, and we take a lot of pride in being able to cover games in as many states as possible. Would we have liked to have gotten into New Hampshire, Maine, and Vermont more this season? Absolutely, and that's still a goal of ours moving forward, but we still were able to cover more games than we've ever had in Rhode Island and Connecticut, and we're excited about that, and we're looking forward to expanding our coverage into northern New England and beyond, really, as we go along here. And I want to thank Kevin for doing a great job with organizing all the writers, getting the schedules out. He and Adam doing yeoman's work with the editing. It's not easy. I mean, these guys put a lot of hours into editing these pieces and getting the content out. So I want to thank you guys for the job that you did, Kevin, organizing everybody and getting out the schedules and making sure that everybody was on time and getting the stories in. Tremendous job by you and Adam this season in that regard. It's our best coverage season yet. I mean, I can't even count how many games we covered, but we covered a lot, and we take a lot of pride in it. And that's why we always stress, we know you have a lot of great football resources in New England. We have a lot of great people covering high school, college, and the Patriots. But give us a look. I think you're going to like what you see. And, we do it year-round. There is no off-season for us. We're not moving on to basketball or hockey or or spring sports. We are all football all the time, and we take a lot of pride in delivering the content that we do. And we want to thank you guys for subscribing, for following along, for supporting us. It means a lot. It allows us to do what we do. And as we continue to grow here and develop, your support will be even more important, because we can't take this to the next level and enhance our coverage without your support. So we greatly, greatly, greatly appreciate that. And please continue to support us any way you can, whether it be a subscription. You can buy some NEFJ gear at our team shop. Anything you can do to help us helps us grow the game of football, promote it, talk about it, and highlight the players and the coaches and the community. So we appreciate it all. All right, well, that'll do it for this week's episode of the New England Football Show. We will be back with you next week. Until then, for Kevin Stone and Adam Kirkshin, I'm John Sirenitas. The hat might be sticking around. I might make it a weekly thing. We'll see. Stone hates it, but it'll grow on him. Peace.
See ya.